All right, good morning. My name is Melissa Shamburik. I work in the marketing department here at the Fox Cities Chamber, and I want to welcome you on behalf of the Chamber and thank you for joining us this morning. Just a few things to note during the presentation. Please keep your sound muted during the webinar, but if you have a question at any time, feel free to drop it in the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll be keeping an eye on that and answering throughout. We have a couple people to introduce before we get started. First is Eric Broughton, Director of Economic Development here at the Chamber, who's going to tell you a bit more about us and a membership program that we offer to local restaurants. Then Dan Brosman, Director of the Wisconsin Small Business Development Center, will say a few words and introduce our main presenter. Thank you and enjoy. Eric, on to you.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Thank you all for joining us today, and just want to tell you a little bit more about the Chamber in general and what our missions is. So we actually serve 2.5 counties here at the Fox Cities Chamber, Outagamie County, Calumet County, and then Northern Winnebago County. And our mission is to promote employers and economic development while serving as a catalyst to further improve quality of life in the Fox Cities. So everything we do is focused on that. And one of the newest ways we're doing that is through our Connect Free membership. And hopefully most of you are already members, but if you're not, I'll give you a really quick update. We just started this program last September, and it is a free membership program, which there's no other chamber in the state of Wisconsin who's offering free memberships. So we're the first that's doing this. And those free memberships are for any small business of 5 or fewer employees, all restaurants of any size, and all nonprofits. And we're doing this, we know that small business is something that just helps support the total economy in an area. So we think that's very important for us to do our best to support them. A couple things with that program that you want to take advantage of if you're a small business or especially a restaurant. You may not always think about it, but networking opportunities within the chamber, that we do a lot of those. Great ways for restaurant owners and management to come out, meet people, meet other business owners. If you do any catering, it's a great way to get that word out, and just to let people know who you are. And every Thursday, you'll see newsletters from the chamber kind of telling you what we're up to. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of those emails, there's always a list of events. And that's kind of if you don't have time to read anything else, check out the events, find 1 or 2 things that you might want to try to get to. And if you can't make it yourself, send someone else from your restaurant or organization to go. Last thing I want to chat about real quick, the other program we like to promote, especially with small and new businesses, is our BRE program. And BRE stands for Business Retention and Expansion. And that's a free service we offer here at the Chamber where we actually come to you as a business owner, sit down and hear more about what you guys are doing, what your needs are, and help to connect you to any resources we can that are specifically, tailored to you. So it's a free service. If there's any interest in that or learning more about Connect Free, I'm going to add my email into the chat here, so you guys can feel free to contact me direct. So I'm going to do that in a minute. Then I'm going to jump off, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Eric. And thanks everyone for joining us this morning. I have just a few slides to share to give an overview of those that may be unfamiliar with the Small Business Development Center. Okay, so as Eric and Melissa stated, my name is Dan Brosman. I'm the Center Director of the Small Business Development Center at UW-Oshkosh, which supports the region in which the Fox Cities Chamber serves. A little bit about the SBDC. We're a national organization. It's funded in part by the Small Business Administration, or the SBA, under the federal government. In Wisconsin, we have 14 centers that are scattered throughout the state, and most of them are based on the UW system campuses. We've been around for just over 40 years. In Wisconsin, we're part of the University of Wisconsin system, and within the system, there is a setup under the Institute for Business and Entrepreneurship that houses various program units, including the Small Business Development Center. Other program units that are housed within IBE include those listed at the bottom. Most notable that may be of interest is the Food Finance Institute. And all that information can be found on our website, wisconsinsbdc.org. So what do? We offer completely no cost, free, and 100% confidential consulting. It's one-on-one consulting. We offer training programs, there's classes, various workshops. Many of them are offered now online or virtual, as well as in person. These are offered at the various centers throughout the state. There's research services, and across the SBDC network, we have approximately 40 to 50 consultants with varied levels of expertise that can help to support you and your business as you move it forward. So we work with businesses at any stage, those that are just getting started or in the startup stages, all the way to those seeking an exit or an acquisition, and everything in between. So like I said, our website is linked there at the bottom, wisconsinsbdc.org, and you can find out all about us, the events, and all of our different specialized initiatives that we offer. At my office in UW-Oshkosh, we serve a 6-county region, including Fond du Lac, Green Lake, Marquette, Outagamie, Waushara, and Winnebago. We have 2 specialized initiatives that are housed within our SBDC. One is our digital marketing clinic, and we hire student interns at the university, and we have a managing director who also teaches coursework in the College of Business. They offer free digital marketing services for any business. So that is also linked on the SBDC webpage, and you can apply for those services. And then we also house a Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation that is specifically for undergrad and graduate students at the university. We offer programming, funding, there's seed funding programs. We run fun competitions. So there's always ways to get involved as business owners to help support these students or up and coming entrepreneurs. And if you're currently a student, you can certainly learn more and look to participate in some of these programs if that's of interest. And that's our team with the photos there, and our specific webpage is wisconsinsbdc.org/Oshkosh. Here's just a high-level glance at the impact of the SBDC network in the calendar year 2022. We worked with over 5,000 businesses, helped with 300 plus business starts. A big part of what we do is help with capital access. So almost 130 million in capital that is helping businesses to obtain capital. That could be loans, investment, grants, whatever it may be to help you move your business forward. And then close to 23,000 jobs supported. So this on the left, that graphic shows our kind of a 5-year trend line. It just shows that we have been ticking upwards. The need for these services are needed more than ever. There's a demand for it, but there's also it's showing the impact of our local economy and that businesses are being started and prospering here in Wisconsin, which is fantastic to see and to be a part of on the forefront. Okay, now for our main event, I'd like to introduce Jesus Nanes. Jesus is a business owner and a consultant with us in the Wisconsin SBDC network. He's the lead consultant for the Wisconsin Restaurant Initiative, which is one of several initiatives of the SBDC network. And he's our expert in state specifically for restaurant owners and entrepreneurs. He's also the owner of Farmhouse Paint Bar and Sip Studio and Chucho's Red Tacos in Milwaukee. In addition to what he does within the SBDC, he also works as a bilingual consultant and supports our Hispanic business owners all throughout the state. Just a fun note to add in here, Jesus was recently invited to the White House for a roundtable event and conversation with the Vice President and some of the staff there, and it was in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. And I can share these slides afterwards, so there's a few links in here that then you can click directly to get to these resources. You can learn more about the Wisconsin Restaurant Initiative and everything within the SBDC at that link at the bottom, which is the SBDC website /restaurants. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Jesus.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for the warm intro. I really appreciate all that, all the work you did, and Eric and Michelle and everybody for the invitation. Let me pull up my slides here so that we can kind of go through that good stuff. And but yeah, as Dan mentioned, I am a business owner and consultant here for the SBDC. I work statewide. I work with all sorts of businesses from startup to, hey, you know, we've been in business for a couple of years and we are struggling because of this and that. So, you know, we tailor the consulting to whatever the needs are of our clients. And if anybody is interested in a consultation, Dan will put some links up in the chat, hopefully, so that they can request consulting help. And obviously we have so many different consultants that are super skilled and can handle a lot of the questions. But if you'd like to talk to me specifically, all you have to do is make a note in your request for consulting, and I'd be more than happy to take you on as a client. It's completely free, which is another great thing, and why I love working for the SBDC. Everything's completely free for the customer. And so, yeah, so today I'd like to invite everybody in to tell us a little bit in the chat, if you have some time, about, you know, what are some of the questions you have in regards to specifically the topics we're talking about. I know there's a lot of questions, but specifically let's talk about how to build an A team, or how to hire, how to retain, hiring, retention issues, as well as cost, optimizing your pricing, your cost, just kind of any questions related to that. Like, you don't know how to price something, or you're having trouble, you know, with the prices going up, for example, and that's a major issue that everybody's having. So, so if there's anything specific, we invite you to go ahead and punch that into the chat and introduce yourselves if you'd like. I can't see who's on the call, so I don't really know who's all there, but welcome and thank you for being here. So we have kind of a small amount of time, so I'm going to dive in as fast as I can into my slides here, which will be the first thing we're going to talk about is how good I can make myself look in pictures, right? And then that's our business, Chucho's Red Tacos. We're in our third year now. We have 2 locations, and we have about 52 to 55 full-time employees. And we are very, very busy still, and very thankful and grateful for everything that has happened in the last 3 years for this business. I started in marketing, restaurant marketing mostly. Most of my clients were restaurants. And that's kind of how I got a taste for the food industry, was predominantly working as a marketing consultant for restaurants. So I'd help them with their website, social media, branding, videos, you know, everything like that. So that's how I started. I did that for many, many years, until one day I was like, why is it that they're the ones that have the money and not me? So I was like, okay, I'm going to dive into this restaurant thing and see if we can't figure it out. And I knew we could figure it out. My wife is my partner. She's an accountant. She's super smart, super bright, and a great partner to have. So so she's been a big part of this as well. And so I told her, I was like, you know what, I think we can figure this restaurant thing out. So then 2020 hit, and our paint and sip business was taken virtually 100%. We could not do our in-person classes, so we decided to open up a little food truck. And that little food truck has turned into 4 food trucks now. Well, no, 5. We just bought a new one, 5 food trucks and 2 locations, one in Milwaukee and one in West Dallas. So we are doing good, and we're growing, and we are doing so with very specific strategies that I'm hoping to share a little bit about today. So if you have any additional questions, just share them in the chat. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what I think is the most important thing, which is building an A team. That's how we like to phrase it. Some people like to say, you know, oh, hiring and all that good stuff. We say building the A team, the team that can run the business regardless of what happens, whether someone shows up or not. Like, this team has to be able to function. And I think that one of the most important things that I have learned is that you have to work on the culture of the business. And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, that's kind of like a buzzword nowadays, right? What's the culture like? And, you know, do you have snacks for them? And, you know, those things tend to be balled up into the culture of the business, when I think those are really just perks of the business. They're not necessarily the culture of the business. So the culture of responsibility and accountability is a strategy or a methodology that I learned on a website training, actually. And that's what I was telling Dan and the crew earlier, that I think the reason we're successful is we never stop learning. We're always looking into courses. We're looking into workshops that are industry specific, right? There's a lot of noise out there as far as, how to grow your business and how to do this and business strategies and marketing strategies. I think that one of the major pieces of advice I could give to you is look for industry specific knowledge. So if you have a coffee shop, look into how to market my coffee shop instead of how to market my business. So that's a very big differentiator there in the results that you're going to get. So industry specific knowledge. And this is one thing I learned on a website called restaurantowner.com. So I'm not going to take credit for it. This is something I learned, and it is a paid website. You have to pay for all the different trainings and things like that. But it revolutionized our culture, our leadership teams, and I really think that it's been one of the biggest difference makers in why we are continuing to be successful. The culture of responsibility and accountability is the number one thing, and a lot of people don't realize that the younger team members, because a lot of the people are younger. I mean, we do have some senior team members as well, but they don't really know the difference between responsibility and accountability. So defining the difference between responsibility and accountability is really important, and making sure that they know that responsibility is within. That's something that you have to do. Accountability is exterior. That's something that you have to do for someone else. So you are accountable to someone else. You're responsible for yourself. And there's much more that we can dive into that. There's graphics, there's images, there's things you can do to really show people what that is in a visual sense, because we are all different learners, right? Some of us learn by word, some of us learn by doing, some of us learn by seeing. So this website that I've been using for my trainings, restaurantowner.com, is really fantastic in that sense, is that it gives you all three of those avenues to pick up on this accountability and responsibility. And one of the ways that you develop the right culture and the strategies is by having respect for your employees as the owner, right? As the owner, your number one goal is to take care of your team, to make sure that they succeed, that they have the tools to succeed, that they have the training, that they have the constant feedback. But most importantly, they have to have clear expectations. That's the number one rule with every relationship in life, is clear expectations. This is what I'm looking to get out of this. This is exactly how I want the job done. And a lot of us don't set clear expectations for our team members. Therefore, they fail and we're upset, and it creates friction because they don't really know what success is in the job. So clear expectations with your team, and that's with your managers, with your dishwashers, with the cashiers. I mean, every single person has to have a detailed job description and responsibilities and checklists and things like that, which, I mean, we can dive into this stuff for days, because there is so much information. But most importantly, it's clear expectations, number one. Number two is you want to make sure you give them constant feedback. So every single time that something is not done correctly, you want to give them feedback, but you want to word the feedback correctly. There's a lot of training involved within the feedback and how to give feedback in a positive manner so that you're not, creating an upset employee in the middle of their shift, for example, right? If you have a cashier that didn't upsell the sour cream or something, you can't come and bark at him or her because they didn't sell the sour cream. You have to take a note and pull them aside once the rush dies down and say, hey, you know what? I want to give you a little feedback. It would help us, elevate the ticket average if we could sell the upsells So I would really appreciate it if you could do this, la, la, la. But constant feedback, constant feedback. And then also it's praise when the job is done right. That's such a huge key to creating clear expectations and a successful workforce, because you have to put it in your head that you as the owner, as the manager, as the GM, your job is to make sure every one of your team members succeeds. You know, that they have to have the tools, they have to have the expectations, they have to have everything that they need to succeed. And that's on you. That's on you. That's our number one job as owners, as managers, is make sure that they are clear on their expectations, getting constant feedback and praise when they do the job right. Okay. So that's all balled up in the culture of responsibility and accountability. Number two, which I think is super important, is pay them accordingly, right? The market it's been interesting, I think, the last 2-3 years, how the wages and the demand has gone up. And then I feel like it's ticking back down right now. Like there's a lot of people looking for work, so therefore the price is lower. So you just have to pay attention to the market and what people are getting paid in your area. Market research is really such an important part of being a restaurant owner. You got to pay attention to what's going on around you. You have to pay attention to how people are serving the food, how much they're charging, what are they paying their staff. You know, if you're somewhere, you know, just be bold and ask them, hey, how much do you guys get paid here? I have a nephew that's looking for a job or something. Find a way to get the information. But you got to know what your competition is paying so that you can be competitive with the good people. Now, I will say this, the really good employees are not pay driven. They are results driven. They want to work somewhere where there's standards of excellence, where there is no favoritism, where the people get treated the same and everybody does a really good job and they put out a good product and everybody gets paid well. But that's not the number one motivator. Normally, the best employees are not money motivated. My general managers are motivated by growth, by learning, by making sure that they're growing as people in their careers. So making sure that you have, like I have on my fourth bullet point, there is a pathway to growth and pay increase. So yeah, definitely paying them accordingly, having a pathway to growth and pay increases detailed out. So there's no surprise. Like there's always, you'll be surprised how many people talk about how much they get paid, especially in the service industry. There is no secrets here. Everybody knows who makes what, and therefore the responsibility has to be according to the pay, right? So we almost make it clear, like if you work here, you make this. If you do this, you do this. And if you can do all four of those things, you make this, right? And that's cross training to make sure that we never not have a specific position. In our restaurant, we are very efficient. We're very lean. We don't have a lot of extra people. We've consolidated positions. And that's efficiency there. That's why pay them accordingly is tied directly with efficiency, because if they can do more work faster with the same quality, they can make more money because you can eliminate a position, right? So those $12 or $15 you were paying that additional person can get split between them and yourself. So you make an additional $750 and you split the $750 between the two or three people that are doing that one job now. So that's been a really good strategy for us. That's been working fantastic, is to make sure that we specify what the pay is per position and how to make more. You want to make more, you got to do this, this, and this, right? And that is really cross training. So because we have 4 positions, if they can do all 4 of those positions, they get a premium pay, because when I'm making the schedule or when my general manager is doing the schedule, they can punch you in any of those shifts because that you can do everything, right? So, and not only that, but it removes the monotony of the job of doing the same thing every single day, right? So if you have an expo that learned how to bartend, they could bartend one day, they could expo another day, and they could grill another day. So that's a premium, very high value employee for me or team member. because they can fill any of those positions. So cross training is the strength. Don't be afraid to train from within, especially have it on here. Like, we need to really believe more in the people that we hire and say, hey, you're capable of this. You can do this. You can do this. But that helps if you simplify those processes, right? Don't make it so complicated. Make everything as simple and as efficient as possible. If you're cutting the onions in that corner, you got to make sure everything that they need is right there. They don't have to go back and forth 10 times to cut some onions or whatever it is that process that they're doing is. So efficiency is number one. And you have to, as the leader, as the owner, as the GM, you got to do all of those jobs. You got to be able to say, okay, this is inefficient, because no one else is really looking for that. There's nobody else other than you, the owner, or the general manager. If you've trained them correctly to look out for these things, no one else is really looking for efficiency. They're looking to just get the job done. So you really have to step in there and give them the leadership and the guidance on how to make things more efficient and make those decisions. You do have to ask for feedback, but not when it's something obvious that, hey, why are you going back and forth to pick up those containers when we could just have them on this side and you don't have to make any of those trips anymore? And you'll be surprised how many times you have to do that, like so many times. And we're lucky we have kind of a small kitchen, so there isn't a lot of wasted steps. But some of these bigger commercial kitchens, I mean, there is so much space, between the dishwasher area and the kitchen space. So you're walking 20 steps just to get a pot, and that's efficiency right there. That's frustrating for the workers too. It's like, man, every time I got to do the dishes, I got to walk all the way over here. So efficiency is not just a money saver; it's also a morale booster. When people see that you care as an employee, as the owner, to look for those things, right? You care to look for inefficiencies and you fix them, and you find equipment that's necessary. There's so many different processing tools out there for meat, for vegetables, fruits, that you really make the job so much faster. We had a full-time butcher in our place. We go through about 10,000 pounds of beef a week, and we used to butcher it all by hand. And, that was a very expensive person. And now we got a beef processing machine that does like a million things, which costs about $1,500. Yeah, it was an initial investment, but we spent $1,500 a week on this person. So now those hours are cut to a part-time position that just has to cut the meat, to the size of the processor. So that was a huge breakthrough for us because it was just more efficient, number one, and the consistency of the cuts was also very important. We make steak tacos like nobody's business all day. So cutting that little cubes of steak is very tedious and dangerous for your hands. I mean, you don't know how many times people get cut. So this machine cuts in cubes everything, fantastic. We don't have to worry about it. It's so much faster, and that's part of the efficiency again. And now I can pay somebody more because it's part-time and it's more efficient, and I get more work out of them. The guy would process, I don't know, like let's say it was like 70 pounds a day or something like that he could actually cut and get ready for steak tacos. And now we're doing 100, 120, 150 pounds a day in half the time. So that's where the money is. That's where you can make more money. You can actually make money because this is a very low margin industry. So every little percentage counts. Every single percentage, every little detail, every cent, everything counts. And you cannot, and there's things you can control. There's things you can't control. You can't control the weather. If it's super snowy out and super cold, the sales are going to be low, but you can control your costs. You can control how much inventory you have, and there's a lot of other things you can control. So to sum it up, because I know we don't have a lot of time, I want to have a little time for questions at the end. If there's anybody that wants to type up any questions, we can address it. But building an A-team, again, most importantly, it's the culture of responsibility and accountability. That's done through, again, respect for your employees. You have two sets of customers, the customers that walk through the door and buy your product, and the customers that are your employees, actually, because you are the owner or the general manager or somebody who's in charge there. So your customers are also your employees. You got to think about it that way. They have to buy this job. They have to want to work here. They have to enjoy it. They have to be respected. They have to feel like they're being successful, right? You can't just point out the negative stuff. There's a lot of good stuff happening. You just got to find it. Pay them accordingly. So how do you do that? Efficiency is the number one thing. How do you eliminate extra work? Number two is cash tips. This is just a little tip that we use, and our system has the ability to do this where we cash out the tips every single night. So they have cash in hand every single night. They pay the taxes. It gets reported. And it's just a much better system than putting the credit card tips on the paycheck, right? This is the difference, because obviously the cash tips they keep, but we also pay out the credit card tips that same night, which is a very, very motivating for people. They're making $15, $20 an hour, plus they're getting $40 or $50 in cash, because we have a different tip methodology. We collect all of the tips and they get divided between everybody that's on shift. So the dishwasher gets tips, the expo gets tips, the grill gets tips, the bartender gets tips, the cashier gets tips. So everybody gets tips. It creates a team mentality. And it also creates the mentality that, hey, if we can work with less people, we get more tips, right? So that helps us in our bottom line to make sure that everybody's on the same mindset of being efficient. Like, we don't need 4 people. It's slow right now. We don't need them. Let's just keep 3, and then we'll make more tips at the end of the night too. We're going to work a little harder, but we're going to make a little more. So part-time and full-time positions, this is also a really important one. In general, you want to have a lot of part-timers and not too many full-timers, because that's a liability when somebody doesn't show up and they get sick for the week and you give them 40 hours and now you have to cover 40 hours of your schedule, which is very difficult. So the general rule is that you want to have more part-time, 60% part-time or 70% part-time, 30% full-time. We are blessed here that we have a very committed, solid team. So we have a lot of full-timers. And this is the slow season for us, so we cut back on the part-timers. But because we cut back and it got busier these last 2 weeks on the part-timers, the full-timers are able to handle the volume. And I'm just like, wow, this is pretty amazing. And they love it because they're making more tips. So it's very interesting when you start to play around a little bit with that efficiency in the tips. You'll see how much more work people are willing to do if they're getting paid accordingly, right? Again, the pathway to growth and pay increases, I think you should detail that out. What's really important with that is to make sure that you have an org chart, an organization chart for your company. So if you have never done this, it's basically the little circles, right? Where you have CEO at the top, you have your GM at the bottom, you have your managers underneath the GM, and you have everybody else below that. So that org chart, you should have the org chart that is currently active right now, right? How many people you have, what are they doing? And then you need to have a future org chart with all the different positions you would like to have, right? So for example, I need a marketing person. I need that social media marketing person. So that person has to be at least identified in the org chart so that when you do have a little extra money to hire somebody, you know exactly the position you need to hire, because you need to put the name of who's handling that right now. So if you are handling the social media work, put your name in that circle. I'm handling the social media. I'm handling the HR. I'm handling the accounting, right? Like, there's so much that the business owner, the small business owner handles. And the first thing I can tell you is try to get someone to help you with those things. I know that the budget is tight and everything else, but those are the most valuable things, man. Having an HR person, if they're part-time, they just work 2 hours a week, an accounting person that works part-time 2 hours a week, a social media person that works maybe 5 hours a week. That's probably one of the more important things, because If you don't have sales, you don't have accounting, you don't have HR, you don't have any of that. Sales is king. It's the most important thing. So that's the pathway to growth. That ties in the org chart, making sure you create an org chart, and that's something that we can obviously, all of these things are things that we can help with. So if you have any additional questions, shoot them in the chat. Train from within. I really like, that's one thing I've been super pushing very hard is don't look for people that are super experienced everywhere. There are certain key things that require a lot of experience. Otherwise, you need to develop the best practices for your place, and you need to train your people. People that come from other kitchens, they have their ways, right? And that may not be the way you do things. So don't always think that is the key is hire other people from other kitchens. That tends to be a very difficult thing. I've had great success bringing people in that have no experience whatsoever in the restaurant industry, that were in completely different industries, and they were just hard workers, dedicated, and not only that, but we gave them the tools, we gave them the right expectations and the lists of things that they needed to do, gave them the constant feedback, and they're doing fantastic. So definitely train from within, simplify the process, cross-train, strengthen numbers. So the more people you have that can do any position, the more likely you are to not run into scheduling issues or an issue where you have to close because you don't have a grill person, right? That's been a big point for us. Okay, so that's kind of the nutshell of building an A-team. We could go into that for days, like I said, but we only have an hour, so I'm just going to touch briefly on those things. If anybody has any questions. Let me just see on my notes if I had anything else. Yep, that's it. So the efficiency, again, that's combining any positions that could be combined. For example, we have our kitchen team, which kind of makes all the food, and then we had a support team, which was like the prep cooks. Well, because it got slow, we told the kitchen, hey, we can either cut your hours or you guys can take on the support work. And they said, hey, we'll take the support work. So now, the kitchen team will do all of the prep work as well as cooking so that their hours don't get cut, because the support people are part-timers. So we don't have that commitment with them of, hey, we're going to give you 30 hours or 40 hours a week. With them, it's like, hey, it's anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week. That's what we have. So really important, that efficiency point and consolidating those positions and the org chart. So, all right. If anybody has any questions, shoot them on in. I'm going to move on to our next slide, which is optimizing your pricing. Got my notes here. Take a drink of my coffee. All righty. So, optimizing your pricing is kind of an interesting task and challenge, because there's so many different ways to price your items, right? Everybody's always coming up with these percentages. Well, it's got to be the cost plus 300% or whatever the percent is over the cost, and there's just all these complicated formulas and things like that, which I've never been a fan of. You're going to lose money. You're going to leave money on the table if you're just going by those percentages. The most efficient and most praised method of creating your pricing, pricing an item, for example, we're going to start there. How to price an item is to do the market analysis on it. What is the competitor's pricing? Who are the local people, and what are they selling it for? Most people will buy because of convenience. So if your restaurant, if your burger joint is closer, they're going to buy it from you as long as it meets the quality standards and the price standards that are in the area. So, or surpasses it, right? Ideally, it surpasses it. In general, in marketing, there's three major value propositions. Number one is convenience. Number two is a unique item. So if your burger is the only burger that's made with bison meat or whatever specialty meat that is, then that will be a unique item. Number 3 is low price, which you don't want to be the low price guy or girl in the restaurant business. That's going to be a sure recipe for not making a lot of money and or struggling and fighting against the big guys. You know, that's who McDonald's and Burger King and those big franchises are. They're convenience and low price. So they're giving you 2 value propositions, and that's why they sell so much, because they know these marketing principles and they attack those 2 things because what they sell, everybody sells a burger and fries. I mean, that's nothing special. But they're everywhere. They're on every corner, and they're low price. So that's why people buy. So the pricing methods, again, is the market analysis is the most important. What are the prices for those burgers in your neighborhood? That's what you need to do. In your let's say 10-mile radius, right? Just a 10-mile radius. Look up all the burger joints. Check out their menus. Check out their pricing. How much does it cost? What are the descriptions? What are the ingredients? How's the presentation? You got to do the research as the owner, as the GM, as the person in charge of pricing or making sure that this operation is making money. You need to know what the competition is doing. You need to know their prices, and you need to know whether they are adding pickles or not, because that could be the difference between yours and theirs. Are they adding feta cheese or any of those crazy pricing items which could add that value to your burger, but it could also add the cost, which might not be worth it. You got to think about that. Like, is it worth it to have that super expensive, truffle burger if nobody's ordering it, and you got a bunch of very expensive items that are possibly going bad in the fridge? We got a question from Virginia. Thank you, Virginia, for your question. First of all, is it good to offer value dishes during less busy days? Yeah, I mean, anything's worth a try. I think you got Dan, you got a question for that? You got an answer for that?
Nope, I was just clicking the button to answer it live.
Okay,
So
cool.
what you're doing.
All right, buddy.
Take it away.
So yeah, I mean, there's always, there is no right or wrong when it comes to that, but just know that the kind of clients you're attracting the value, the low price client, right? Is that the demographic that you're in, right? So studying the demographic of the people that are around your restaurant is really important. A lot of people don't do that. I've seen so many people buy restaurants without any idea who the people are that live around there, or even the quantity of people that live there, right? And that's the first thing I do whenever somebody says, hey, do you want to open a restaurant over here? I look at the population. I say, how many people are there? What are the demographics? So yeah, I think it's important to think about what you're offering when it comes to a low price items. I'm not crazy about it. We used to do more of that, and now it's unique. We would prefer to do something unique versus low price, but you could do an introductory low price for a certain amount of time to see if it bites, to see if people want to try it. But overall, I'm against the low price option. We have one day where we offer a special, and that's on Taco Tuesday. And to be honest, like it used to perform a lot better. And now it's just kind of, it's kind of like a normal day now. And although, I mean, what's interesting is that it's a normal day, although our tacos are almost, 30% off. So it's kind of like we're losing money in a way. I don't know if that's really what's bringing them in or not. If it's the low price, or is it just the fact that it's Taco Tuesday, So I'm not a big fan of any price off discounts or anything like that. It brings in the wrong crowd. We're not a low price option. We're I would say considered a medium to high price Mexican restaurant in our case. And you got to kind of define where you are in the market, so that you can put your offerings up with those 3 things in mind. Is it convenient? Is it unique? Or is the price low? What are those 3 things? If you have any additional questions on that, Virginia, feel free to type them in. I hope I answered everything you were looking for. And then we have a question from Robert. Looking for that 18 player becomes increasingly difficult when you have a very low application response. Are there methods and tips to increase applications, produce more interviews, and get more people on your team? Thanks, Robert. Robert's actually one of my clients from SBDC. So thanks, Robert, for hopping on. I invited him on this because we were having discussions about this this weekend. And yeah, the application response is interesting. I'd love to take a look at the postings, the job postings, because you need to be as clear as possible with the position, the hours, the pay, the expectations. And there's also a lot of great screening questions that you can do to have a better turnout on those applications as well. Because you don't want to just give anybody an interview, right? That makes you look very desperate when you're just like, hey, just everybody come in, everybody come in. You have to do a screening interview to see if they can make it into the interview process, right? Because then it becomes a little more exclusive to work for you. It's not just, hey, anybody goes, right? But I think we need to dive in a little deeper into the job posting. Look at the description. Is it too wordy? Because you have to understand the kitchen staff and they're looking for a summary. They're looking for a recap. They just want to know all the details, but in a summary format. It's really important how you post the jobs, where you post the jobs. Also, Facebook Marketplace jobs, Facebook Jobs it's been okay for us. We get a lot of applications, we get a lot of people, but the reality is that the referrals from within have been our strength. Like, we have so many people who pull their family members in to work here with us. So I would start there. Like, how do we, incentivize the people that are around you to think about, referring folks to you? So hey, there's a $50 hiring bonus for you and the person you refer if they come in, if they make it for a month, if they pass our probationary period. I'd say a probationary period is mandatory. You got to have a 30-day probationary period where they're not fully hired on until they pass those 30 days and they meet the expectations of the job. So definitely revisiting the wording on the job descriptions, trying to hire from within, trying to find referrals from within, and looking for other resources in the area, right? Like, where are those folks? I mean, this is like marketing to me. Marketing is really getting inside of the person that you're trying to bring in. So where are those cooks hanging out? What are they reading? What are they watching? And how do we get in front of them in that way? But again, the most important is the hiring from within, referrals from within. How do we find people from within? Because in order to do that, the culture has to be right within. And if the culture inside of the restaurant is right, those people are just going to be coming in because their friends are going to be like, oh man, it's awesome working there. Here it's awesome because of this and this and this. And at the same time, you could get some feedback if you start that dialogue with some of your key employees to say, what are the things that make it not awesome? And start to tack away at those things. And I know that we've discussed it, Robert, where they say, hey, we need more people. To me, that sounds like there's a lot of inefficiencies, and I know you're finding them and you're doing a great job, and keep it up, man. I know we've been having great discussions about all the different efficiency methods that you're punching in, but that's when people say we need more people, to me, that screams it's inefficient, right? Either you're taking too much time making a certain item, or you're making items that are not necessarily, profitable, or there's a lot more to dive into there. As to why, if you don't have a good culture, why is it not good? What makes the job not awesome? Get that feedback out of them. And I know that in your case, it's been, oh, we need more people. No, I know that's not the case. It's efficiencies. Find the efficiencies, the inefficiencies, and tweak them and make things better for your team, and they will help you recruit. They're the best recruits. They know the people. They know the people that are working. So yeah, that's my answer for that, Robert. If you have any follow-up, send it on through. We'll try to address it here, buddy. Thanks, man. Okay, so So we were talking about competitors pricing and just pricing in general, and how to make sure your pricing is correct. And this is so important because if your pricing is not correct, you cannot pay people correctly. You know what I'm saying? So like if you're leaving money on the table because you're doing the cost times X method to put the pricing together, you are leaving money on the table, because what if, you know, you do your formula and the burger comes out to $6, but your neighbor's selling it at 10 and everybody's paying $10, no questions asked. So you could leave money on the table using that strategy and not doing the market analysis. So really important to do the market analysis. What are the prices? What are people paying? Because that'll give you more budget, you know, to hire more people, to pay more to the people that are there that are good, to make money, you know, because that's what we're in this for. Like if you just came into this to have a job, then I suggest you just go get a job and you get paid more, you know, versus, you know, having all this additional work and not making any money. So it's got to be clear. So descriptions, ingredients, presentation, that's all about just checking the competition. What are they doing? How are they presenting? And the value proposition. What is your value proposition is a good exercise to go through. Digital menus and POS to change prices fast. This is huge. You got to have a decent POS system, point of sale system, cashier, cash register, that allows you to make changes to the prices as soon as possible whenever you see any changes in the market, right? Because whoever the purchasing person is, you should have a spreadsheet that, you know, has the recipes, number one, of what you're making, the quantities of each item inside of it, and what the price is per pound for that major ingredient, right? You got to find those 5 major ingredients that you're buying, and you got to shop those around. There's no way around it. You got to find other providers, and you got to put the flex on the people that you're getting it from. Like, hey, you know, Cisco, I really like working with you guys, but your tomatoes are 50 cents a pound more expensive than this guy. I really want to keep working with you guys. So can you match this price? You know, and you got to have that in your toolbox is pricing. You got to make sure you're getting the best price on those top 5 items, especially. Like I said, we go through 10,000 pounds of beef a week. A 30-cent change on that is $300 a week, $1,200 a month, $14,000 a year, right? So that's a big raise for somebody, or that's a vacation fund for me. So I'll take that. So very important to have digital menus and POS and keeping an eye on that. I recommend Toast. That's what I use in my businesses. And it is one of the more expensive ones, but it just provides so much information back, so much analytics, and you can really make decisions that way. So cost controls, I'm going to touch on it quickly because I know we're running out of time here. Really important to have a recipe log. You don't have a business if you don't have the recipes and the log of what it takes to make what you're selling, right? So making sure that recipe log is up to date with the ingredients, the quantities, the pricing, that's really important. So if you have any questions on how to make a recipe log, you can Google, you know, how to keep a recipe log for my business, you know, for my restaurant, or you can shoot us a message and we'll send you something to help you put that together, or set up a consultation to help you put one together. But what's really been helpful for us is to work out the cost in a percentage. So what does that mean? That means that we put all of our costs together, all of our food costs, and we divide that by the weekly sales so that we have an idea of what the percentage of the cost of goods is versus the sales, right? So that you can see whether you are in the right margin or not for your industry. In our industry, it's like 25, 30%. Like you don't want to be any higher than that. So you got to make sure you know that number. If you don't know that number, you don't know where you're at, right? You don't know what you don't know. So working out the cost as a percentage is a really great exercise to monitor weekly. So how much did I spend on all the materials I bought this week? 10,000. All right, so then but you sold 30,000. So that means you're at 33% cost of goods sold, which is high. So now you know that there's some margin there to work on, because there's industry standards, and that's the beautiful part about this, is there's so many industry standards already out there. The wheel's created. We don't have to go recreate it. Like, you got to know that you got to fall within those standards, so that you can make money, so that you can make a 10 to 15% margin on the sales. You got to be in that 20 to 25% cost of goods sold percentage, right? So again, the cost controls, labor and efficiency of preparation is so huge. Like, you got to get in there. You got to pay attention to how they're doing things. You got to make it better. You got to make it faster. That's the only way to control the cost. These are the only things you can really control. You can control sales by doing marketing and promotions and things like that, but to a certain extent. But you can most definitely control your cost by being more efficient, by paying attention to the preparation methods, eliminating overly complicated dishes that are not selling necessarily. And that's a very important thing. So inventory to sales ratio, this is another really important percentage that you need to know in your business, is how much inventory are you carrying versus how many sales or how much are the sales that you're making. So that's a percentage that, again, should be below 25-30%. That's kind of the industry average. So because it's possible that you're not making any money every week because you have too much in inventory. You're just carrying too much inventory, and that's a liability. So you want to make sure that you have the right amount of inventory, because otherwise that's eating away at your profit every week. If you make money every week, you make money all year, right? So the POS system is very helpful with that, because it can give you exact quantities of what was sold, right? A lot of people are using old cash registers and just kind of writing things out by hand, and they're really losing a lot of the analytics and data that is available that will make you a more successful business. So again, I think that driving my last point home, it would be to invest in a solid POS system. Do your research on all the different ones there is out there. It is an investment, but if you're in this for the long haul and you really want to, focus on your business, then I suggest that's a major step that has to be done. And I believe that's all I have on the slides. So we're going to open it up for the last few minutes here for anyone else who has any additional questions. Just type them into the chat there. And Dan, if you have any commentary, your marketing wisdom would be, greatly appreciated.
You're an expert. There's so much that I know you can share and you can add on to, and it's excellent insight. And know that if you want to be connected with Jesus, you can come and chat with us in our office, and then we can make that direct introduction to Jesus and help to be a part of that conversation and guide you along. So this was like a nice tease into a lot more conversation that can be had with Jesus and in our SBDC office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely important to just to understand that as an owner, as a manager, as a leader, really, as a leader in your business, you got to be looking for knowledge always. We don't know it all, man. We don't know it all, and I read a publication every week about restaurants. I immerse myself in restaurant culture. I hang out with other restaurateurs. Like, this is just my life, and I love it. It's such a great industry. I love the people. I love the simplicity of the transaction. I've done so many other businesses in my life, and marketing, and these extensive contracts and deliverables and things, and it's always just more complicated. Here it's like, I got to give you the food. It's got to be good. You pay and you're done. So I really like that part about this business, and that's why, when we started, I was like, this is what I want to do. Restaurants is definitely my thing, and it's been good to us. So we're thankful.
Jesus, there is a question that came in from Kim. I know we're right at 10, but maybe you can give a
Yeah.
20 to 30-second answer,
All right.
and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you see the question, but I can repeat it. Kim Mishler is with Sticky Fingers Cafe, and she's actually worked with Aaliyah Caro, who's in the SBDC network before and has been working with our office. But she says, I was wondering about how to do the cost of percentage quickly.
Yeah, so ideally, Kim, you have all of your expenses coming through one account, right? Which is the operating expenses account, right? And this is another whole, different world, which is the accounting of a restaurant. And I got to thank my wife for this because she's an accountant, but she also dove in, and we dove in on how to do accounting for a restaurant the correct way, right? So first of all, it's not done on a monthly basis. It's done on a 4-week basis. I'm sorry. Yes, on a 4-week basis, but it's done weekly. Monday through Sunday is the accounting week, period. So Monday through Sunday. And why is that? Because we know that Fridays and Saturdays are big sales days. So if you do it monthly, it's possible that in January there's 4 Saturdays, but in February there's only 3. So your sales are out of whack on February. But that doesn't indicate that you had a bad 4-week period. It just means that in February there wasn't 4 Saturdays. Does that make sense? So you got to do it on a weekly basis, Monday through Sunday. So Monday through Sunday, you got to track all of the expenses related to cost of goods sold. What is that? Packaging, anything that goes through to the customer, basically, right? Not pots and pans, not spoons, not anything like that, but anything that goes to the customer, including food. And we do our food and beverage separately because we have a bar. We have a bar, so we try to keep that bar percentage and all of those numbers separate so that we know what the cost of goods sold percentage is in the bar, and we can tweak it separately. But if you don't want to get that complicated, just total up all the expenses you did for the week, right? And then divide that by the sales that you did that week, Monday through Sunday. And that's how you get your percentage on a weekly basis, right? So again, if you did 10,000 in sales and you did 1,000 in expenses, that's 10% cost of goods sold, right? So again, you want to be in 25 to 30%. Below that is the best, obviously. And if you're way out of whack with that, then you need to look at your recipes and you need to dive in and say, hey, why am I so off with this? Am I using the wrong tomato sauce? Am I using, premium beef instead of maybe the not so premium beef? Can I try the other options? And those are industry standards. Those are industry standards to make 10 to 15% profit per year. So that's not a ton of money either, so if you're out of line with those, then you're going to be not good at the bottom line of your percentage of profit. Also, what's really important, just like you did that percentage, you do the labor percentage as well. So you do the labor over sales and you get that number, which should be below 40%, right? And those are industry standards. You can Google that. You can say, hey, what's a good labor cost percentage for a restaurant? And you can find the industry standards so that you know kind of where you're at. And then you know what you need to pinpoint and the work that you need to do.
That was a little more than 30 seconds. That was good. So as you know, Jesus has a wealth of knowledge. So please feel free to reach out to us, continue the conversation. We're here for you. There are some links in the chat box. We'll also follow up with links to resources as well as our slides. But don't hesitate to reach out. We wish you the best in 2023 and many years ahead. So once again, thank you all for being here. And thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Fox Cities Chamber.
Yeah, Fox Cities Chamber, thanks a lot. If you ever want to do another one of these on anything specific, let us know. We'd love to keep helping out the industry. And I know there's a ton of questions. There's so much to dive into, and it can be overwhelming. So I'd love to do this again. Any specific topics you guys would like, and I'm available.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us and thank you for doing this.
Awesome.
Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.